Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome to what is it now? The 11th episode of Pure Grade Puroresu. Today, we are looking at NOAH's, I believe their final Navigation for the Future show. This was from the 1st of February. This was only a 2-hour airing on Samurai TV, so we should be able to get through this really quickly. Once again, you guys are lucky if you're long-time viewers, which long-term for me is like just over a month. I usually do like a big opening, but look, today we're not going to do that because I want to go to sleep and I just want to run through this show. Okay, let's get right into it. Now, obviously, if you're like a long-time viewer of NOAH, you know that it's a bit painful trying to follow them because first of all, it's really only their main events, which are the real blowaway matches, and also the first half of their Samurai TV shows are always heavily clipped. So even if there's like a good match in there, it's usually very, it's like 2 minutes or something that are actually good out of the 5 minutes you see, and that's from like 17 total minutes. So it's always a bit disappointing. So look, the first match was the Hooligans team of Cody Hall, Kazuma Sakamoto, and Mitsuya Nagai versus Kenou, Kinya Okada, and Yoshiyuki Inamura, with Okada and Inamura being the NOAH rookies. Now, as I've said, this was gypped, it was joint in progress. First thing that's really disappointing here, look, Kenou is in the opening match. Like, we went from this guy, like a year ago, this guy being the guy who's going to, lead NOAH back to the Budokan, and he's going to, usher in the new era for NOAH that's going to bring them back to, Japanese royalty in the wrestling scene. And now he's in the fucking opening match. Like, okay, yeah, he did have a title challenge only a month ago, but now what are we doing with him? That's just really disappointing. Anyways, I can't really rate this match. It was just so heavily clipped. We saw so little of it. Kinya Okada, he got a bit of focus in the match. Kenou was, throwing around his stiff kicks, stiff strikes. That was fun. But then Sakamoto put Okada away. That was pretty much it. In the post-match, the only real thing of note was that Cody attacked Masao Inoue. Very skippable match. Next match, we had Hayata, Junta Miyawaki, and Seiya Morihashi versus Kotaro Suzuki, YO-HEY, and Yoshinari Ogawa. Again, this was once again gypped. We joined as Hayata was getting the better of YO-HEY. Obviously, the story was that YO-HEY, who was part of Rattels, he was the original member of Rattels alongside his long-term partner, Hayata. Not long-term partner in the marriage sense, obviously, although I've been paying attention to the translations, and apparently Hayata and YO-HEY do refer to themselves as like being each other's wife, or one of them refers to the other as being the wife. So hey, there's a little cute little thing going on there. So yeah, we saw some nice acrobatic exchanges from the two ex-best friends. Both guys are very similar. I've always had this issue. Like, for the first 5 months I was following NOAH, I think this was back in 2017 or 2018, I had a real difficult time telling YO-HEY and Hayata apart. In fact, the only way I was able to really tell them apart was when I looked up YO-HEY and I found out, oh shit, he was one of the guys who was involved in that Dragon Gate monkey scandal thing. And look, regardless of what I thought of that whole thing when I found out about it, not at the time because I wasn't watching back then, but it's like, this terrible animal abuse thing. But hey, the guy apparently paid his penance. He's it's like years on. I'm just gonna get past that and just focus on him now. But I just continued confusing him for his old name of Ryoma, and it makes sense why he would change his name, because, who wants to be associated with, a bloody monkey animal abuse story for the rest of his life? But yeah, for the longest time, I genuinely just thought of him as Ryoma, and that was the one thing that allowed me to differentiate him from Hayata. So I guess he had a bad reason for standing out in my mind. But anyways, this was, a decent little match. Again, it was so heavily clipped, I can't really rate it. Kotaro Suzuki, he was also showing off some very nice acrobatics, and he stands out way more than Hayata and YO-HEY, even though Hayata and YO-HEY are also decent high flyers. But fitting into their image, Hayata and YO-HEY come off as much more grimy and messy, and that's intentional because they're meant to feel like, these sort of, messy, dangerous, flamboyant high flyers, whereas Kotaro Suzuki, that dude is just so fucking fluid. Like, I was watching some of his matches when he was a rookie in NOAH back from 2002, and even then he was doing like picture perfect backflips in the ring and flying all around with like the veterans and the fellow rookies, and he just looks so smooth. So yeah, Kotaro Suzuki, he's just as smooth as he was all the way like 20 years ago, and even back then he had no right to be as smooth as he was. Miyawaki, he also continued to get a bit more time to shine. I noticed it was only in these last like few months where Miyawaki has really started to move from the basic, Noah rookie moves of, throwing a few forearms and a few drop kicks. He's actually started getting a bit more offense in, which was pretty cool. He was working over Kotaro's arm for a bit, which was pretty interesting. You usually don't see the rookies getting that sort of psychology up. Usually it's, as I said, a few basic strikes, maybe a few holds. But over Kotaro, a long time wrestling veteran, got a bit of arm work in, so that was pretty interesting. But eventually, Kotaro hit Miyawaki with the Blue Destiny for the win. So that ended Miyawaki's little hope spot. The only real thing of note here with this match was actually in the post-match, as Hayata and YO-HEY have finally made up. So it was all the way back in October on Noah's Great Voyage show, where YO-HEY turned on the rest of Ratels and attacked everyone, and sadly also attacked Hayata, his longtime tag team partner. And apparently on the shows that were not televised leading up to this Noah show, Hayata had been extended the handshake of, I believe it was Kotaro Suzuki and maybe also Ogawa, so they were teasing that Hayata was going to defect from what remained of Ratels and join back up with YO-HEY. They haven't really explained what the reason is for Hayata being able to forgive YO-HEY for, laying him out and also his friends all the way back in October, but I guess what I can sort of infer is that maybe Hayata was sort of feeling hopeless, like he didn't have a direction without YO-HEY. Like, okay, he still had Harada and Tadasuke, but they weren't they weren't the original, members of the Ratels group, which was started by Hayata and YO-HEY. So yeah, they all shook hands at the end. It looks like we now have a unit of Kotaro Suzuki, Yoshinari Ogawa, YO-HEY, and Hayata. So, apart from the story with this unit getting built up, I actually enjoyed the story of how YO-HEY wanted to defect from Ratels and start up this group with Kotaro and Ogawa, because the idea was that Harada had not offered, I believe he had not offered challenges to the other members of Ratels. He had offered challenges from the other members of Ratels except for YO-HEY, and that made YO-HEY sort of jealous. He was like, I am part of Ratels, but I do have my own dreams of being a wrestler. I don't want to be stuck just being in Ratels. So that sort of made him say, I'm going to leave this group, and that made him join up with Kotaro and Ogawa. And at the time, when Kotaro was the junior champion, he said to Harada, okay, Harada, if you don't beat me for the title, then you have to make sure that Ratels disbands. It was something like that. And so even though Kotaro did end up getting beaten by Harada, the sad truth was that Kotaro knew that YO-HEY was going to end up causing a lot of mayhem in Ratels. And now we see a few months on, Ratels has basically split up because, okay, we do still have Harada, and he's in a good position. He's still the GHC junior champion. And we have Tadasuke, and he's doing well on the match shows, but in the matches, but he doesn't really have any real direction that I can see. So is this even really a stable anymore if there's only 2 members? Because it was only 4 to begin with. Now YO-HEY's, now that Hayata's also left. So look, either way, this stable itself of Ogawa, Kotaro, YO-HEY, and Hayata, that's a pretty cool stable. All of those dudes, very well skilled. Ogawa is the one who sticks out the most because he's not like a, flamboyant or flashy high fly. He's just like a pure technical wrestler, but that's like a really nice balance to it. So I'd really like to see a mixture of any of these 4 guys challenge for the junior tag titles. That'd be really interesting. Anyways, let's get on to the next match. We had High69, also known as Hiroki, teaming with Minoru Tanaka against what remains of Ratels, Daisuke Harada, and Tadasuke. So this was the first match on the show where, it was still clipped, which is really annoying, but we still saw 9 of the 11 minutes, so it's like, okay, I can talk a bit more about this match. I don't mind, giving a rating to this match. For the record, it was only 2.5 stars. It's not something super impressive, but look, I enjoy Minoru and I enjoy Harada, and Tadasuke is pretty good, so if you've got like 9 minutes to spare, it's not going to hurt if you watch this, especially if you already enjoy the guys quite a lot like I do. So the Samurai TV pre-match package, they were showing that Noah has been building up a Minoru versus Harada match. So I don't believe that Minoru actually got any wins or pins over Harada on these shows, but he's been like stepping up to him, getting in his face, and basically Harada's lifted his title up in Minoru's face. So that's basically wrestling logic for, okay, I accept your challenge. And again, very quick aside, that's what I love about wrestling. It's a media form where you literally do not need any dialogue, Like, you need vocalizations, just like sounds, but you don't need any dialogue. I just need Harada lifting the title up. I just need Minoru like stuffing his face right into Harada's head, being like, oh, like you just get the idea that he says, you want to fucking go, mate? I'm going to kill you. That's all you need. Anyways, back to the match. Just back to this idea. I am so fucking stoked to see another another, what accent is that? To see another Harada versus Minoru match. They had an amazing, great. They had a solid, great match at the end of 2017. That match got quite a few plaudits. Meltzer gave it like 4.5 stars. I went about 3.75 to 4 stars. And look, if you've listened to me, whenever I talk about Minoru Tanaka, I always just praise the guy. He's like 46. He moves as smoothly as he did like 30 years ago. The guy is just fucking insane. He does not age. So yeah, very excited for that match. Anyways, this match itself, both Harada and Minoru, they had some really nice strikes. And Harada, he had some nice suplexes. Minoru with some nice holds. So that was, I guess, really what differentiated them there. There wasn't really much story to this match. It was just, everyone showing off their exchanges. High 69, again, I know that his name is technically Hiroki, like the 6 of the 9 is, that's how the numbers are pronounced in Japanese, but it's just, like, I've always read it as High 69. I'm just going to call him that. High 69, he really didn't do too much until the very end when he got like a big burst of moves, and he actually ended up getting the win over Tadasuke. So what happened leading up to that was that Tadasuke and Harada, they were really on a roll, executing some decent tag team moves, but then I believe it was Harada, I think he accidentally lariated Tadasuke. Oh no, it was the other way around, sorry, just looking at my notes. Tadasuke accidentally lariated Harada, and I was thinking, is this playing into the sort of Rattel's, mayhem story where it's like, oh no, maybe this is going to have Harada turn against Tadasuke, being like, oh, why'd you attack me? Everyone's left Rattel's, and then I'm leaving this. They didn't really go through with that. We didn't see any like post-match bitterness between Harada and Tadasuke, but I can easily imagine that happening soon because, like, it's not like they're going to add more members to this stable. I mean, they could, or they could just leave them as a two-man stable. They could become like the Great Bash Hill of Noah, where it's like Makabe and Honma for just like 10 years on, never adding any members or losing each other. So maybe that's going to happen. But yeah, Minoru and High 69 put together some decent moves in the end, ended up getting the win. Post-match, Harada just steered off with Minoru. That was fine. Fine match, 2.5 stars. I think if these 4 wrestlers were given like a position of respect, meaning like if they weren't third from the bottom on a random Korakuen show, if they were given the go ahead on a Great Void show, being like, okay, you guys have 15 minutes, go all out, I really think they could easily put on a great match because, like, look, you've got Harada, you've got Minoru. Those guys are fantastic. They're generally some of my favorite juniors in general right now. And then you've got High 69 and Tadasuke. They're also very solid juniors. They're not as good as their as their peers, but they can be very solid. And look, they can even be great sometimes. So yeah, it's a shame because Noah always has, I shouldn't say always, but they very frequently have a card where it's like, oh, that match is very cool. That looks really good on paper. But then it's like, oh yeah, I forget. They're only going to get like 10 minutes and we're only going to see like 5 minutes of that. So it's not going to be as good as it should be. Anyways, let's move on to the next match. This was the first fully good match of the show, and I listened to Joe Lanza from the Voices of Wrestling podcast, and he said that this match didn't do anything for him, and I was like, damn, dude, because I thought this was a pretty decent match. This was for the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, so this was the Backbreakers, which is Hajime Ohara and Hitoshi Kamano, going up against the DDT team of Keisuke Ishii and Koki Iwasaki. Again, this was I wouldn't say this was a joint in progress match, so it wasn't gypped, it was more clipped. We'd see a bit of the start, bit of the middle, bit of the end. So we ended up seeing apparently about 11 out of the 15 minutes that it went. But look, this was still a pretty good match for its time. I'd say even very good for its time. I went 3.25 stars on this. So this was actually one of the standout matches on the show. And I guess that's a bit of a negative of the overall show if it's like a 3.25 star match is one of the standout matches. But yeah, first thing to note, these DDT boys, they're the invaders here. They were out to prove something because they were very energetic right from the start, running around, a bit of aerial moves. They also took the guys, the Noah boys to the outside, but it wasn't a typical sort of heavyweight brawl where it's like a lot of slow holds and strikes. Like, they're throwing them right into the barricades, and like they were just actually energetic, like not just like Suzuki Gun, like holding, putting on a hold for like 10 seconds or holding like a barricade against someone and you can tell it's not doing any damage. They're actually going at it. But eventually the Backbreakers, there's a reason why they're probably like, they would probably be my favorite junior tag team if I had to think of them. Like, that used to be Roppongi 3K from New Japan for a while, but they just haven't been super interesting or developed all that much in like a year. So Backbreakers like have easily overtaken them because look, they do what they say in their name. They fucking break backs. They break backs, and they do a fantastic job of it. They use a large variety of holds, strikes, power moves, and each guy has their own unique style. Like Kenou, like he's a bit bigger than Ohara. Ohara is like the speedy sort of high flyer. So Ohara is going to do like some really crazy moves where like he'll put someone up on his shoulders and then swing them around, and then somehow his opponent will like do like 10 flips before he lands right on Ohara's knee, like right on his back. That sort of shit's beautiful. Then you got Kenou, who's just like a big bruiser. He'll just like throw his elbows right into the person's back, and then he'll just, you know, pick them up like, you know, belly to belly suplex, that sort of stuff. I just love that dynamic. Like, it's perfect. You just take a team and you automatically, by their namesake, you give them that psychology. So all of their matches are immediately like a star up, honestly, but just because it's like, okay, I know I'm not just going to see like a random little match where people do exchanges, even though that can be good sometimes. But here I know backbreakers, they're always going to tell a story, and that's going to force, you know, a lot more emotion out of their opponents. Their opponents are going to have to figure out how they're going to portray, you know, working from under, having their backs worked over. It's just, you know, I just fucking love backbreakers. I've loved Ohara ever since I started watching Noah consistently, and I've also really grown on Kenou. I had a bit of a roller coaster of opinions and reactions relating to Keisuke Ishii, because I think I'd seen him all the way, like first time I'd seen him was all the way back in All Japan, I think in 2015 and 2016, and back then I didn't think much of his look, but he was pretty good at putting together like a flurry of attacks, and you know, he usually had decent chemistry, and that's what I thought here. So for the first half of this match, watching him, I was like, damn, this dude can pull off like a bunch of really impressive moves very quickly with like near flawless technique. But then for the second half of his performance, there were a lot of moments where he was going to pull off like individual spots, and his timing and chemistry with his opponent, it would usually be a bit off, and it was usually his fault. So, you know, some positives there, some negatives with him, but he was mostly good. Ishii and Ohara, they had some really, really good one-on-one interactions. They actually went over for a while where Kenou and what's the other DDT guy? Yeah, Kenou and Iwasaki, they were basically just lying down on the outside for like quite a long time, like maybe a ridiculously long time, but it didn't really matter, because even though it was a long time that Ishii and Ohara got with these direct interactions, they were really good. Ohara, he's just, like I've already said, he's just so damn awesome with how he can like put someone up on his shoulders or in some way and just spin them, like, you know, like obviously I was exaggerating before, like 10 flips, but like he can get like a full like 360 revolution out of an opponent off of his shoulders or whatever before like they land on his knee or whatever. He's just great at doing that sort of stuff. And Ishii, he also had some really good like bumps where, because he's such a skinny dude, he can really what's the word? He can really, I guess, make good use of his body type and his flexibility to really make it look like his body is being contorted over Ohara's knee or by his, you know, whatever else that Ohara is using to really like target that back. So but you know, great work from both guys. The tag team moves started coming out from both teams at the end. I also really enjoyed that. At one point, Ishii hit a like poison reversed Frankensteiner on Kenou, and that looked really disgusting, like in a good and a bad way. Kenou was like immediately gripping his neck, and that's one of those moments where it's like, oh shit, are you actually in pain and that's why you're gripping your neck, or are you just selling? Either way, really enjoyed that moment. Kenou got his bare bottom, but it looked really awkward. That sort of like sapped out the energy from the crowd, but luckily he followed that up with like a massive clobbering lariat, and after that, Kenou applied the Argentinian backbreaker, while Ohara applied the Muy Bien, and that's what led to backbreakers getting the win. So the DD team, they fell in their challenge, but I thought they gave a good showing. I'd be happy to see them, you know, feature in Noah again. I was really interested to see that it was DDT guys that were going to be making an appearance in Noah. Like, I guess I do acknowledge that Shiozaki had been making some appearances in DDT. He was in their, their Grand Prix final at the end of last year. And also he was actually very recently on the DDT Judgment show, which I was actually going to mention this at the end of this show, but I am going to review that Judgment show. But apparently the runtime is like 6 fucking hours. Like, you think like WrestleMania or like Wrestle Kingdom is bad. This is like fucking 6 hours. I have no idea how I'm going to make it through that. Sometimes I don't even know, like, sometimes, as if I'm always thinking about this one show, but I wonder, am I actually going to go through with that entire show? Because like 80% of it's going to be comedy that I don't care about. But then I look at the card and it's like, oh, you got T-Hawk, you got Shiozaki, you got Marufuji, you got all these like great outsiders making appearances, and I really like Takashita. Anyway, that was just a little random aside. Decent match. Backstage, what happened was Kotaro, he confronted Kenou while Kenou and Ohara were giving their, you know, post-match backstage interview, and I think I looked at the translations, and it wasn't anything too special. It's not like there's like some big story or a storyline from like 2 years ago that's being picked up here with Kotaro finally returning to NOAH. It was sort of just, typical like tough men, talking shit where it's like, hey, you think you're so cool, blah blah blah. And yeah, Kamano and Kotaro, they ended up having a bit of a scuffle backstage. Ohara and Ogawa were trying to hold their respective members back. So yeah, that is going to be a really cool match. So it's going to be Ohara and Kamano versus Kotaro, and I'm pretty sure Ogawa. So yeah, all four guys there, they all offer something very unique. Even Ohara and Kotaro, they're both like more of the high flying style. Kotaro is actually much more of the high flyer. Like Ohara has that, but he's also big on strikes and not really power moves, but like he's got like some power just in general, behind him. So yeah, I'm not sure when that is. I know that NOAH has a Korakuen show. I think it's actually in late February, so that could be like within a week in real time. We probably won't get the show for like 1 or 2 weeks anyways, but I'm yeah, very excited for that match. Now we move to Akitoshi Saito, Naomichi Marufuji, and Takashi Sugiura versus Atsushi Kotoge, Go Shiozaki, and Katsuhiko Nakajima. And look, again, this is what I was talking about when it's like, okay, you look at the card on paper, and you're like, holy shit, all those names in one match, in one ring, that should be awesome. Marufuji, he's one of the greatest wrestlers in the world when he tries. A lot of the time, he's just good because he doesn't really want to work. Sugiura, Shiozaki, and Nakajima, those are like the stiffness gods right now. Like when I think of the wrestlers who are really like putting on like hard hitting, brutal, blood curdling matches, I think of those guys. Ever since Shibata left and New Japan sort of had to move away from having like a big strong style match with stiff kicks and strikes and all that shit, like they moved away from having that every month. It's really NOAH, as I've been saying for a while, that's been really carrying the Japanese strong style spirit. And admittedly, I haven't been following every big Japanese promotion the last few years, but I feel like I'm pretty safe in saying that NOAH has been holding that title very well. So yeah, the main appeal here was obviously then the stiff strikes. I should also mention that this was actually Marufuji's first match back, and I think like 2 or 3 months. I believe he injured himself around, I think it was November, because that's when NOAH have their Global League show, and he was actually meant to be in the finals up against Kiyomiya. So he got himself injured somehow. I can't remember how. So this was his first match back, and so obviously that's a real life event, but they wanted to work that into this match. So obviously before the match starts, the team of Kotoge, Shiozaki, and Nakajima, they all jump Marufuji and they sort of work him over for a while. Marufuji, he looks, I wouldn't have known that he was injured if I hadn't actually, known for a fact, because, he looked, like, it's not like he looked amazing, but he looked as good as he usually does with his movement and his strikes. He worked hard to sort of like fight off all three guys, and he did have some moments where he was actually, dominating them, but then the three of them would always actually end up dominating Marufuji. From there, look, I can't really say there was much story here. We got like a bunch of different, like pairings between these 6 men, and it was always a highlight whenever it was Shiozaki, Sugiura, or Nakajima in the ring, because those guys are always just super stiff. The interactions between Sugiura and Shiozaki, and also Sugiura and Nakajima, they were definitely the best moments of the match. If you've heard me talk about NOAH before, you'll know that I absolutely love Go Shiozaki. I think he is the most underrated wrestler in the current day. He is Kobashi's pupil, and look, Kobashi is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and I think Shiozaki, I don't think he's on Kobashi's level, obviously, but god fucking damn it, Shiozaki tries so fucking hard to carry on Kobashi's legacy, and he doesn't at all become like a carbon copy of Kobashi. He just takes the best parts of Kobashi and develops them in his own style. Like, he comes across to me as like Vegeta, as like this very like arrogant, proud prince, and he just has like fantastic, facial expressions. I always know exactly what emotion he's trying to convey. He just looks like a guy who's like, you're not going to fucking destroy me, I'm going to destroy you. I know that probably sounds very like base level reading of a wrestler, but god damn it, Shiozaki, he's just fantastic. I absolutely love the dude. Incredibly stiff strikes. Whenever he goes up against someone like Marufuji or Sugiura, you can always sense that the crowd is always more on the other person's side, because there's history with Shiozaki. He got like a massive push. I believe it was actually right after Misawa died. They put the title onto Shiozaki. I think only like within a week or something. And so he got really heavily pushed for like three years, I think it was. But he got pushed to the title, but then I don't think he was ever super dominant as a champion. And so the Noah fans sort of resented him. And then there was a bunch of drama with Kobashi being let go from his contract with Noah. And obviously Shiozaki, he's a Kobashi student, so he and a bunch of other people from Noah who were loyal to Kobashi, they left Noah in protest and joined All Japan. And then when Shiozaki came back to Noah in, I believe it was 2015 or 2016, he was positioned as a babyface to sort of help Noah try to get rid of the Suzuki-gun invasion. But even then, the Noah fans were turning on him. They hadn't really forgiven him for walking out on Noah when it was, just beginning to struggle financially and, getting crowds. But over the last 2 years, he has given so many fantastic performances. He's been one of the few guys in Noah that makes me constantly come back. I think it's literally just Shiozaki, Sugiura, and Nakajima who have had me coming back, at least up until we started, seeing the awesomeness from Kenou and Kiyomiya. And Shiozaki, look, I could go on for ages about this dude, but the one thing that I always love is whenever he goes up against Sugiura or Marufuji, who are also known for being stiff strikers. Obviously, Sugiura, he's got those more deep, thudding sounding elbows and forearms, and Marufuji's got those incredibly sharp chops. Shiozaki, whenever he was faced up against them here, he just destroyed them. And admittedly, there's quite a few moments where Shiozaki will throw out a chop and it won't really connect, but when it connects, holy fuck, it connects. Hey, you can take Walter or Volta, whatever they're going to call him in WWE, you can throw him in the fucking trash, okay? Shiozaki is my chop king. He fucking obliterates chests, Pectorals, they fucking run away from Shiozaki. Anyways, I've gone on about this match from way too long. The match was it was sadly a bit disappointing in the end because we ended up getting Kotoge and Saito, who are the weak links of this match. Definitely, they had some interactions, and then the finish was terrible because Kotoge, he went for a cradle, or I think it's called La Maestro, where he rolls up the leg and the arm and he tries to pin Saito, but then I'm not sure what happened, but it looked like Saito actually countered it because Kotoge's weight went all the way over to the side, so then it was Kotoge's own shoulders who were on the mat, but then I couldn't tell where Saito's shoulders were because of the positioning of the camera, so then it looked like Saito was actually pinning Kotoge, but then it also looked like both guys were pinning each other, but then I could also tell that both guys were constantly moving, and it's okay, Kotoge's shoulders are clearly up, Saito's shoulders are probably up by the fact that I can see how, desperately he's moving around, but the ref counted the counted three. The ref counted three anyways, and Kotoge put his hands up and he was the winner somehow, so yeah, that was really deflating, but look, the match itself was fine, 3 stars, just come here for the stiff exchanges, think about, me going on and on about how awesome Shiozaki is. You can also apply some of that stuff to Sugiura and Nakajima. I feel like if you're a Noah fan, you usually have to choose between those 3 guys for who is your stiffness king, which is what I'm going to term it, because they're all incredibly stiff strikers, very different way that they sort of channel that their stiffness, and yeah, Shiozaki's my dude. Is yours Shiozaki? Is yours Sugiura or Nakajima? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, also one thing that's really cool to note was, well, this itself wasn't. I'll get onto the cool bit, but in the post match, Kotoge, he's all happy. He's like, yes, I won the match, and he's all exhilarated. He's jumping up and down, raising his hands. And Shiozaki, he used to be tag team partners with Kotoge. He grabbed Kotoge's hand to sort of raise it, as if, hey, we're a team, we're going to hold hands and raise them and, show the crowd we won. But Shiozaki was only using his index and no, I think it was his middle finger and his thumb, so it was he was showing he doesn't really want to touch Kotoge, and I don't think that's going to lead to an angle. That's just a joke, oh, here's this awesome badass Shiozaki, and then there's this goofy comic hero Kotoge, and Shiozaki doesn't really want to interact with him. But the one thing that I want to get to, and this didn't need all this build up, and it probably doesn't even need to be pointed out, but Shiozaki and Nakajima, they were very cordial in the post match. They shook hands, bowed to each other, so that's really cool because I've always been fucking disappointed with how Noah treats their tag team division, because first of all, they'll fucking take my boy Shiozaki, they'll give him a tag team partner, they'll win the fucking titles out of nowhere, then they'll have a 30 or 40 day reign, if that, and they'll make maybe not even one defense. Shiozaki, he's a 5-time GHC Heavyweight Tag Team Champion, and 4 of those reigns have come in the last 2 years, I think. And I think pretty much all of them have been with different partners. So it's what the fuck are you doing with this direction, Noah? But anyways, that's really cool to me, because when I heard that Shiozaki and Nakajima were teaming up, when they actually ended up winning the tag titles at the end of last year. I was like, holy shit, that is a dream team. But then I'm thinking, who would you even pair them against? Because you've got two awesome guys, you put them on one team, then they can't really face off against another team of two awesome guys because NOAH probably doesn't have enough, awesome guys to, fill up that position. And sure enough, they ended up going up against the Hooligans, and obviously what happened was the Hooligans won the titles, and yet another awesome thing that NOAH has basically ruined by their own stupidity. Speaking of stupidity and the GHC Heavyweight Tag Team title division, this brings us to the Heavyweight Tag title defense. So this was the champions, the Hooligans team of Taniguchi and Yuji Hino versus the 50 Funky Powers, Muhammad Yone and Quiet Storm. Now, I feel like a lot of NOAH fans enjoy 50 Funky Powers to some extent. Like maybe they enjoy the comedic aspect of them, or think, oh, they're charming, they got this whole disco gimmick. I fucking hate the 50 Funky Powers. I was never big on Yone. I was certainly never big on Quiet Storm. Then NOAH threw them into a team, and they started they're 3 or 4 time champions in the course of a year. God, I just don't get into them at all. I can appreciate Yone when he just goes full on stiff with strikes, and Quiet Storm, he can be okay when he's throwing strikes, but he's much more so than Yone. He's someone who just glides by on strikes, he's how there is an art to being a stiff striker. I think of Shiozaki, Nakajima and Sugiura. I'm not going to go on about them too much again. I did that enough in the previous the review of the previous match. But look, they're not just throwing their limbs at their opponent as hard as they can, because anyone can do that. There's an art to everything else, from how they're holding themselves, their posture, their gestures, their facial expressions, their use of space, their vocalizations that actually make a character behind someone who's throwing those kicks or those chops or those forearms. With Quiet Storm, I don't see that. He does his big guttural roar, and it's sort of been a thing for me to sort of impersonate vocalizations from wrestlers when I talk about them, but I'm not going to bother doing that here. I don't know if I could get low enough a register to do Quiet Storm's impression without actually hurting my throat, but he does that, and then he'll throw a lariat or a chop with his incredibly short fat arms, and I just don't get into him at all. He literally looks like someone who has no actual art behind his offense. And I understand that the appeal of him is that he's a short dude. He's 5'7", but he's really beefy, not really muscly, but as I said, a lot of beef to him, and that's why he gets all this impact behind him when he throws a lariat or a chop. But to me, it's so much of the same. And yeah, so look, the point is, I wasn't that excited going into this match, and I left with about the impression of the match that I expected to have, because this had a few moments of stiffness where I was like, okay, this is acceptable, and there was also a lot of Hooligans bullshit. I was really stuck between a rock and a hard place here, because I've got 50 Funky Powers on one hand, who is just a team that I just can't get into at all, but then I've got the Hooligans, who, at least the heels, at least I'm meant to hate them as opposed to 50 Funky Powers, but they do generally, I was okay with them at first. I was like, okay, this is interesting. They're sort of trying to do another, invasion stable angle, and like Suzuki, and I was like, okay, maybe they've learned their lesson. I wasn't looking at their roster for the stable being oh wow, just a bunch of killers, Cody Hall, Mitsuya Nagai, Taniguchi, they're all so amazing. Probably the only actually good wrestler in there is Yuji Hino, and even he's really suffered from this gimmick. But look, my point is, who do I really want to win here? 50 Funky Powers or Hooligans? I guess I actually had to eat all my words and say I probably wanted 50 Funky Powers to win, just because I wanted to get these tag titles out of, bullshit, because at least 50 Funky Powers can have a good match. Hooligans have all had okay, they've had some good matches, but it's been totally in spite of their performances. 50 Funky Powers have at least had some moments where Yone and Quiet Storm have worked well. Anyways, let's get to the match. First thing that I noticed here, and this really gave away the result for me, it was that when the Hooligans team of Hino and Taniguchi, when they came to the ring, for some reason Taniguchi was not super willing to high-five Hino. Hino put up both of his hands towards Taniguchi, and Taniguchi looked really uneasy. He didn't look like he was untrusting him. He just looked like, oh, I'm not sure if I should do this. And Hino ended up high-fiving or patting Taniguchi on his pecs, sort of being it's okay if you don't want to high-five me. That was a really weird moment, though, and it seemed like that was genuinely meant to be foreshadowing how, I guess this stable, this Hooligan stable, they're not really, joined by friendship. And this, I'm going to get on to, sort of One Piece where I'm oh, I'm going to talk about the Nakama and the power of friendship and, Naruto and Fairy Tail and all that, anime bullshit. But, it really did seem like they were trying to go for the idea of, these are just, a ragtag bunch of people who just like to cause, chaos and start shit. They're not really united by, any real ideals, and that's why they end up losing here. And, again, Spoilers, they lost here. I was actually happy with that because we got the titles off them. So, yeah, the match, it moved around from having like some stiff counters between like Kenou and Yone and Hino and Storm. And there was also quite a bit of like time wasting from Hino and Taniguchi, or just generally like bland, boring brawling from them. And also, it wasn't too bad at the start, but as the match went on, the interference from the rest of the Hooligans members, Nagai, Sakamoto, and Cody, it became pretty invasive, pretty annoying, started really eating away at the match. So, yeah, the in-ring, there wasn't much to really applaud here. The only really interesting thing was that, for some reason, Sugiura and Marufuji, they decided to come out to make the save for 50 Funky Powers, because the Hooligans team, they were like, okay, fuck this, we're going to attack the ref, and then we're all going to attack 50 Funky Powers in the ring, lay them out. But yeah, Sugiura and Marufuji, they made the save. They helped 50 Funky Powers fight them off. Then it was Yone and Storm. They worked over Taniguchi for a bit. Then they hit the 50 Funky, the Funky Buster Bomb, I think, on Taniguchi. Some stupid fucking name for a move that looks okay. Like, okay, yeah, I'm shitting on 50 Funky Powers a lot, but like, I'll admit the tag team finishing move, it isn't that bad. It's sort of creative because it goes from Yone's Muscle Buster, and then it also like turns into a power bomb, like a sit-out power bomb from Quiet Storm. Anyways, that was fine. Yeah, in the post-match, this was one of those matches where the match itself isn't really interesting. It's more the post-match stuff that's interesting. So first of all, Kazuma Sakamoto, who I've actually been enjoying in Dragon Gate. He's it's a different style there, different pace. So he looks a bit better than in these Noah matches. But yeah, so he called out Sugiura. He was pissed off that Sugiura and Marufuji interfered, and he basically I'm not going to go through the entire translation, but basically we're going to have a 4v4 match between the Hooligans and the team of Sugiura, Akitoshi Saito, and then the two Noah rookies, Inamura and Okada. And the wager here is, if the Hooligans team loses, then the Hooligans will disband. And it's like, holy shit, okay, I'm definitely watching this match. I'm buying into this. Hooligans, you better be fucking on the way out. But get this, if Hooligans win, if Sugiura's team loses, Sugiura has to be Hooligans' fucking slave. Like, god fucking damn it. What, like, holy shit, what are the, like, there's two massive, like, this is the big ends of the scale here. You've got the sweet, tantalizing offer of the Hooligans finally fucking off, but then you've got this disgusting, totally off-putting idea of Sugiura becoming their slave. And I think to myself, like, okay, Noah, you're like you're a promotion with pride, like surely in your legacy. You understand that Sugiura, he's a guy who's been around like since the original days of Noah, I think. He's a guy that's been with the company through thick and thin. He's the only thing really that held up the company through 2018 and stopped you guys having abysmal ticket sales and attendance. He had some amazing matches. Would you really go to the lengths to actually put him in Hooligans? And I think to myself, and I'm like, you know what? They might just fucking do that. They might be stupid enough to think that they're going to get like, great heat by making Sugiura look weak along Hooligans. And it's like, I don't want to fucking see that. I don't think anyone wants to see that. Even if it ends up in an angle where it's like Sugiura finally fights back for his freedom or something, I don't want to see that in the first place because I don't want Sugiura looking so weak ever. He's the killing machine. He's the dude who stands up to Minoru Suzuki and actually looks like he could take him out, Everyone else that Suzuki goes up against, Suzuki looks like a damned killer, but Sugiura, he's the only guy where I'm like, okay, yeah, he could probably fuck, Suzuki up. And so, God, I'm really afraid of this, but hey, at least I'm buying into the story now. Hey, Noah, you got me. In my mind, I do think this is going to result in the breakup of Hooligans, but it's like, damn, I just can't trust Noah because they're so well known for not just abandoning ideas and just making poor decisions, about what they think is going to be a compelling storyline. And I also wonder, like, okay, Sugiura, when you're choosing your team for this match, like, I think he must have known about the stakes of this match before choosing his team. Otherwise, at least I didn't check the order of the translations, but I'm pretty sure it was like that, where it's like, okay, I understand the stakes, now I'm going to choose my team. So why the hell would you choose Akitoshi Saito, who's like a decent worker, but like he's in kayfabe, he's not considered like one of the strongest wrestlers on the roster, like he's past his prime, he works in the undercard matches, and then you choose two rookies who have barely been wrestling for like not even a year. I don't think they've been wrestling for 6 months even. Like Sugiura's either like totally willing to just work along the Hooligans and be their slave, or he's just super confident in himself and maybe a bit of confidence in Saito to just totally put out all the rest of the Hooligans. So, yeah, Noah, you've definitely got me invested in this match, but it's not really for the right reasons. But hey, you've got me invested, so I guess that's the main point, isn't it? I actually just had to entirely re-record that little bit I just did talking about the Hooligans and Sugiura match because I thought I was fucking recording it, but Audacity decided to not record it. So yeah, I did like a little 3 or 4 minute rant, and I thought it went really well. Then I'm like, okay, fuck, but hey guys, you guys didn't notice that at all. It would have been seamless for you guys with my amazing editing, and I can easily turn the magic on just like that. Sorry, I wanted to hear the click. Just like that, I can turn the magic on. Anyways, the other big thing, if I stop talking about the meta of this review show and get back to the actual show at hand, the other thing that came out of this match in the post-match was that after Sugiura and Hooligans, they'd all left, the 50 Funky Powers, they finally got to celebrate. So they were basically off to the side while all this, other shit's going down. And that's another thing. That just shows that Noah does not care about any of the other titles. I guess they do care about the junior title, but it's only the junior title and the heavyweight title. The tag titles, they do not care about at all. Because they had the tag champs, 50 Funky Powers. They had just regained their titles. I think they're 3 or 4-time champs now. And they just sat off in the corner while these other two teams, these other two groups and parties just had, their own little beef. And then Yone and Storm, they finally move into the center of the ring. They finally celebrate, hold their hands up. Then Kotoge comes out, and he's in his, silly little superhero revolutionary costume. And to cut a long story short, wasn't that long. I guess I'm making it longer now by talking about it. Should I get to the point? He announces that Eddie Edwards is returning to Noah, because it cut to a live video up on the screen. And I heard about this before the show actually aired, but I bet... I'm trying to think of the timeline, because what I was going to say was, I bet that fans at the time thought that it was going to be an announcement of Kenta coming back. But then I think back and I was like, actually, I don't think the news had broken yet that Hideo Itami had left his WWE contract. So maybe the fans at the arena wouldn't have thought that. But regardless, they were pretty happy to see that Eddie Edwards was going to be making a return. They got a pretty decent pop. That when you hear some girls and some woman screaming when an announcement's made of a wrestler appearing or returning, then that wrestler is over. Always trust the woman in the shows, or just on anything. If women are into it, it's probably generally over with I'd say the general populace. That's just what I'm going to say. So yeah, Eddie Edwards, he's going to be teaming with Kotoge, and they're going to make a challenge for 50 Funky Powers tag titles. And look, Eddie Edwards, he's gotten a decent push in Noah the last few years. Whenever he's returned, he's always been given a decent little run. And hey, he even ended up being the GHC Heavyweight Champion for a few months. I think it was what was it, maybe 4 to 6 months? I think, was it even 6 months? But yeah, he always works really hard. Even in Impact, I've always really enjoyed his stuff there. But in Noah, he just feels so natural in Noah. He can unleash. In Impact, he can't be as stiff because I was gonna say the mainstream US brands, but you can't really call Impact that anymore. Even ironically, but you know what I mean. The US wrestling brands that are made for TV, even ROH to some extent, they're not as willing to go being stiff, that sort of style that Noah is known for. But yeah, Eddie Edwards, whenever he comes to Noah, always works hard, works very well alongside wrestlers, doesn't look at all out of place. I have no idea what the story would be for him teaming with Kotoge. I think Eddie Edwards in his promo that he cut, that the camera showed, was just him saying Kotoge was looking for a partner, so he reached out to me, or I accepted his offer when he reached out to me, or that sort of thing. So yeah, it's an interesting matchup. Hopefully this brings Kotoge out of his stupid character, because okay, yeah, it's funny that Kotoge puts on a cape and runs around, but I've said this before, I want to see crazy Kotoge. I want to see Kotoge that throws a fucking vicious headbutt or some stiff strikes. I want to see I want to see Kotoge, not revolutionary superhero who, does stupid shit Kotoge. And look, obviously, I'm really hoping that Kotoge and Edwards, I hope they take the tag titles off of 50 Funky Powers. It sucks that the tag titles have been, I was going to say so heavily, hot potatoed for the last year, but it's really been the last 3 years, I think we'd be lucky to find a tag team that's held those titles for more than, I'm going to say 150 days. And that seems relatively short, but you know what? Let's look up live on the air in the last 3 years. Let's say from the start of 2016 to right now in 2019, have the GHC heavyweight titles ever been held for longer than 150 days? Let me see. Okay, well, look, I've done the research, and I guess I failed. Technically, at the start of 2016, the Killer Elite Squad, Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer, they were still the champions from all the way back at the start of 2015. So if I was going to be really cheating, I'd be oh, you can't really include that because I said from 2016. So it's if you want to start from tag title reigns that started at least from within 2016, you also had Marufuji and Yano. They held the titles for 179 days, so that's just over 150. And then there was also Muhammad Yona and Quiet Storm, our boys who are, well, not our boys, definitely not my boys, but the boys who are currently the tag champs, they held the titles for 161 days. But yeah, look, every other like tag title reign, it's basically been like a mixture of like, 40, 60 days, maybe like 120. So yeah, these titles, they really don't ever get any respect. So it's not like I want the titles to just be hot potato for the sake of it. I really just hope that Edwards and Kotoge, like who knows how long Edwards is actually gonna feature in Noah. This is probably just like a random one-off appearance, although that's what I thought last time, and when he came and he ended up being champion and featuring like big time into their storylines for the rest of the year. But yeah, like this time I don't really think he's going to stay for too long. He's probably going to look decent. It's probably going to be Kotoge who ends up eating the fall. 50 Funky Powers will continue in their third, I believe. Oh, actually their second. What the hell? Oh my gosh. Okay, I feel bad. I've been going on about these guys. I thought that I could have sworn they were like 3 or 4 time tag champs. Maybe it's just because their first reign, that long reign that I mentioned before, was like so uninteresting, and their other performances as a tag team were so uninteresting that my head just like must have imagined that they were being forced down my throat as champions. Turns out they weren't, but look, the fact that I thought they were, that just speaks volumes for just how much I do not enjoy them. Okay, and how's this for a transition? Let me tell you something that I do enjoy. It is the heavyweight title defense from Kiyomiya. God, I've worded this fucking terribly. It was the main event. It was the champion, Kaito Kiyomiya, defending the GHC heavyweight title against Masa Kitamiya. So we got Kyo and Kita here. So look, first of all, there are currently a lot of doubters with Kiyomiya. And I'm not like a super like ardent Kiyomiya supporter, but I like the story they're telling with him. So people have been complaining that he got pushed way too heavily. He's already the youngest ever Global League winner and the youngest ever GHC heavyweight title champ. So yeah, that's fucking massive. He gained all of that within 1 year of returning from excursion. And I wouldn't have thought like 2 years ago that it was going to be Kiyomiya, the young, the Noah rookie in green tights, who was actually going to get the GHC title before Masa Kitamiya, who had been like, getting a bit of a push. He made it to like the Global League finals, and he was getting some title challenges. He was looking really strong, like back when Kiyomiya was a rookie. So yeah, people think that he's a bit too awkward, a bit too like looks out of his depth at times, and let me explain. I think that works well for Kiyomiya, because the idea with him is, even though he wasn't like around during the time of Misawa, he is, I don't know like the truth to this, but supposedly he was a kid who grew up and loved Misawa and always wanted to work for Noah, and so it was like a childhood dream. And so that's why he like uses his moves. He's adopted his green, and he uses like the tiger suplex and some emerald flosion and like his rope flip move. I love that story because it's like, okay, here's this young dude, and even though Misawa has passed on, this young kid who never got to live through Misawa, but saw, heard about him and followed him, he is like, it's like Misawa's spirit. And this is going to be really pretentious. This is the part of that episode that comes out each week where Lewis goes really pretentious and gives like, an overly dramatic explanation of why he likes something that's relatively basic. But I really get the idea that it's like Misawa's spirit, the Noah spirit, lives on in Kiyomiya. And even though Kiyomiya does still have like some of his characteristics from his rookie days, like a few facial expressions or the way he executes like a few strikes or something, that makes him look a bit like a bit of a newbie. But I think that works well because it's like, here's this young dude who really doesn't know what he's doing, but god damn it, he's got Misawa's strength, his courage, he's got all of his moves. He's trying to keep the Misawa spirit alive. He's trying to revitalize Noah in the way that Noah was born, with Misawa's spirit. And it's like, it's mixing the old of Misawa and the new of Kiyomiya, generally being like a rookie with all this innocence. And it's like, I love that idea of Kiyomiya being the guy to revitalize Noah in Misawa's pure image. I just love that story. That's really the justification I use to, I guess, sort of excuse Kiyomiya's few shortcomings, where like he has maybe a bit of awkward chemistry, or he doesn't really know how to emote what he's trying to get across with his character. Because I just say, hey, this is a young kid. He's been pushed beyond his wildest dreams. It's like he didn't know his own strength to be able to, or a skill to get to this point. But now he's suddenly leading this promotion that he grew up loving, or at least loving the hero of, who created the promotion and led it. And yeah, I think that's just a really cute story. So the story going into this match was that Masa Kitamiya, he won a number one contendership match against Atsushi Kotoge. And this was on, I believe, the 20th or the 21st of January. So, yeah, because Kotoge and Kitamiya, they both came out and challenged Kiyomiya after Kiyomiya defeated Kenou. And I thought it would be the best option to have Kitamiya be the one to challenge. Kotoge, he's a bit too focused on being a comedy character. I didn't trust him in this current, style to give a good match. And Kitamiya, he gave a good match here. So this apparently went 29 minutes, typical Noah. They're sort of just as bad as New Japan at putting on like overly long main events, but this match was cut to 22 minutes. So first of all, I was thinking, okay, that's a relatively big cut for like a main event. That's almost like, okay, it's close to a third, but whenever I noticed cuts, it was usually when like a brawl had happened, and it was usually when Kiyomiya was lying down, injured from that brawl. So it's like, okay, they didn't really cut out too much. It was just like extended selling period. So I'm not like missing, like a top rope reverse Frankenstein or like a power bomb on the rail or something. It's obviously, I should trust the editors. It's like they're not going to cut out that shit that's actually going to put Noah over. Noah would not allow that. They're going to cut out the boring stuff that Noah's like, okay, yeah, keep this shit on the low. We don't want people to know that we have like 5 minutes of the guys just lying down. So yeah, a bit clipped, but nothing too bad. Still 22 minutes. This was pretty solid. The story here was that, and this has been the story with Kiyomiya for a while, and I guess people will say that this sort of plays against the idea of him being like a good champion because he looks so weak. I wouldn't say he looks weak, but for the first half of his matches, he will definitely be positioned as the pure white meat babyface who's going to get dominated by his opponent. And look, I think that works to the story as I've been going on because it makes sense. He's a new guy. He's inexperienced. He doesn't really know what he's doing. So when there's like a guy who's been wrestling longer than him, Kiyomiya, who's much more of a brawler, way more strength to him, Kiyomiya is going to struggle going up against Kiyomiya's power advantage and general aggression. So yeah, Kiyomiya, it's going to be so difficult going from Kiyomiya to Kiyomiya, but Kiyomiya, he dominates Kiyomiya for like the majority of the match. Fucking hell, you see, Kiyomiya, he stages a few comebacks every now and then. He'll pull off like his few signature moves. One thing that I think that he really excels at, his signature moves, he usually pulls them out as counters out of nowhere, and that's what I think that he is great at. So Kiyomiya will be on a roll, he'll be dominating him, but then Kiyomiya, there are a few moments where like he pulled out like a DDT, I think, or like a facebuster sort of move, and another one he'd pull out a drop kick, and he always got great technique on those, and great timing to make them come out of nowhere. So like even I'm shocked, even though like I am expecting, like as a wrestling fan, I'm expecting to see these like counters come out of nowhere. So those moves are even getting me. Building off of his strength advantage, Kiyomiya also started to work over Kiyomiya's leg, so that made sense because Kiyomiya, sort of following in Misawa's footsteps of having a sort of, flashy, very movement-based offense, constantly going off the ropes. Kiyomiya was trying to cut that down, so going after the leg, and Kiyomiya, his selling is a bit like, I'm not going to say it's bad, I definitely wouldn't say it's great, but he's got some good selling to him. Like his real-time selling is, quite good. He still doesn't know exactly how to emote like someone who's just generally suffering. He comes off a bit melodramatic with that. But, I can't really complain too much. Again, the kid is 22 years old, and I know that's not an excuse because he is still the champion of what was one of the biggest promotions, wrestling promotions in Japan. So you should still be able to critique him. But, I think he's doing a good job. And he was selling his leg when they were focusing on the leg. He was doing a pretty good job selling it. He'd still move around. He'd still get those bursts of energies that, selling purists would fucking despise. But I guess for normal people, like, I'm just going to say it, for normal people like me who don't get aggravated by like the smallest and most like unimportant of details, it was fine. Whenever he would pull off like a big run or like a big like rushed like move that involved the leg in any ways, he would always reference it. So look, I don't need someone, as I said in my review of New Japan, like relating to Okada, I don't need someone gripping their leg, every single like waking second. I just need like someone to constantly refer to the leg, let me know you haven't forgotten about it. Kiyomiya eventually gained control as he started pulling off his signature moves, which are basically Misawa's signature moves. So again, I like that. It's sort of like, and again, a few people probably find this pretentious. I say a few, but that's just because I have a small number of listeners. I probably mean like the majority of people who hear me talk this way will probably think, okay, Lewis, you're just talking bullshit. You're trying to talk about this in flowery language to make it sound off cool. But it really does come across to me as if like the story is that Kiyomiya, like in those moments when he's suffering, he's calling upon like, Misawa's spirit, being like, okay, I need to use Misawa's moves to take this guy down because, Misawa used these moves and that's how he became so dominant. So again, that's the sort of stuff I like. It's like they're not like hitting you over the head with these ideas, but it is like a very obvious storytelling technique that they're going for to get this, idea across. And so, that helped Kiyomiya regain some control, but eventually Kiyomiya did regain control, obviously, because, he is the bruiser, he's got the power advantage. But during this time when Kiyomiya he'd regained control, he wasn't selling his leg. And look, I can already tell on Cage Match, there's going to be, the few usual suspects, who I'm talking about. They're going to be like immediately rating this match, 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10, worst match ever, just because Kiyomiya didn't sell his leg during the time when he was in control. But I think there's a genuine reason for that because, first of all, Okay, yeah, Kiyomiya did do a decent job targeting Kiyomiya's leg, and it was like a big focus of the match for a while. But then Kiyomiya was in control for a bit, where it's like I can reasonably believe that he can shake off the pain of the leg. So it makes sense because Kiyomiya is being worked over. He has no chance to actually gain grab Kiyomiya and go back to the leg. So it makes sense that Kiyomiya would be able to brush off the pain and use the leg a bit more normally. And again, whenever Kiyomiya because he did eventually gain control again, as I said, and then he went back to the leg, and hey, we're immediately brought back to it. So look, are you really going to complain about the leg being forgotten about for 5 minutes when it's just going to be brought back anyways, and it's still going to play into not the direct finish, but it's still going to be a feature of the match in the second half? I don't think you can really complain about that. At least I'm not going to. Another thing I don't think Kiyomiya gets enough credit for is his bumping. That dude, I've noticed this for a while. I guess I've noticed it subconsciously. It was really only in this match when I was like, holy shit, I should really be aware of this. The dude has some amazing bumps. So I remember there was a tag match, it was last year with Shiozaki. It was on one of the Great Void shows where Kiyomiya got totally destroyed by, I think, a German suplex or something, some big power move, and he rolled backwards and showed that the momentum of the move had somehow sprung his body upright to his feet before he collapsed. And he did another thing like that here, where Kiyomiya, he blasted Kiyomiya with a big lariat as Kiyomiya came off the ropes, and Kiyomiya, his body, the idea was that his body had taken the momentum so much that he had rolled all the way back up to his feet before immediately collapsing. I love that shit. It's such a creative, energetic way to show someone just being totally obliterated by a move. I just love that shit. Also, the idea was that Kiyomiya was working over Kiyomiya for so long, and yeah, okay, it makes the champion look weak, but plays into the idea of him being inexperienced, and we did finally see Kiyomiya looking really good, because first of all, as I said, using, Masao's signature moves, but then he was also hitting some, big spots of his own, or big sequences. The first big one was when he did I think it was a top rope, or even maybe a middle rope, inverted DDT. That was really cool. He also locked in a chicken wing face lock sequence, and that's very reminiscent of Masao's own face lock, his signature move that the crowd will go crazy for. So Kiyomiya, it's sort of referencing that, but he's also got his own little spin on that with a chicken wing added in, so I like that as well. It was around the time of these particular two big spots where we moved into the big move trading sequence. That's what I like to call it. Both guys are going for big moves, taking decent bumps, selling really hard. The crowd's buying into it, a bunch of near falls. The tension is massively picked up. I really enjoyed that. And look, I never thought that Kiyomiya would win this match. And to be fair, I was actually spoiled. Sorry, did I say, God, that's the fucking issue with these guys. And other promotions would usually be okay, your name is way too similar to this guy we already have, you're changing your name. But Noah's just no, we're just going to deal with this confusing little factor. Anyways, what I was going to say before I got deterred on that little rant was that when I heard about this match, and even though I was actually spoiled on the result, I still never would have thought that Kiyomiya had a chance of winning, because first of all, there was no story, and okay, it's Noah. They often don't put a lot of thought into their title matches, but even then I was okay, they're not just randomly going to give Kiyomiya the title here against Kiyomiya. There's a lot more story to tell with Kiyomiya than there is on randomly giving the title to Kiyomiya. So I guess that maybe took away a bit of my enjoyment, and it's not just because I was spoiled, because there are matches I've been spoiled on, I know the result, and I can still really enjoy the match. So yeah, the match was slightly held back for me. I still gave it 3.5 stars. A decent first half, really good second half. Kiyomiya, he worked really well, and they actually had some really decent near falls where I did technically have myself second guessing, where it's for that minute second I was holy shit, did I misread a spoiler? But eventually Kiyomiya would end up kicking out of whatever move and pin combination Kiyomiya had thrown at him. One of the stories that are featured in this match for at least the second half was that Kiyomiya was constantly trying to hit Kiyomiya with the side suplex. And interesting little fact, the Japanese call it the Saito suplex, and I don't know if that's just the accent trying to mimic an English word like side, because I hear other Western fans say, oh, they hit him with the Saito suplex. And I'm no dude, it's the side suplex. But then I'm thinking, okay, Kiyomiya's his trainer was Masa Saito, so maybe the suplex is actually called the Saito suplex, and it just so happens to sound similar to a side suplex, which is what you would call a move where someone grabs the opponent on the side. Anyways, yeah, Kiyomiya, he'd been fighting off the side suplex from Kiyomiya for a while. Then he finally took it. There was a great arch, by the way, that Kiyomiya threw Kiyomiya over his shoulder. That was one of those decent near falls I was talking about. But after this, it looked like Kiyomiya, who was really firing up at this point. That's what I love about Kiyomiya. Like, his offense isn't the most impressive, but it's always his passion and energy, just the way he like psychs himself up and therefore like psychs up the fans and me at home. That's what I really enjoy about him. But eventually Kiyomiya did regain control. What was interesting was he was using like a series of drop kicks to re-establish dominance, and it was a bit awkward. Like, I always feel whenever Japanese wrestlers try to do that spot where it's like someone escapes from their opponent, they're behind their opponent, you know, facing towards their back, and then they go for the drop kick to the back of their head, the opponent who's, you know, the one who's taking it, they always look really stupid because they're just facing forwards, like totally not looking on their opponent or trying to defend themselves. It always looks really weird, and that happened here. But I did like how it was like Kiyomiya, he's all groggy, he's trying to stand up to Kiyomiya, but Kiyomiya just keeps putting him down with those drop kicks. And then and I've already complained about this before, but Kiyomiya, he hits the tiger suplex. You know, he gets a full bridge and everything, so it's not like you could excuse it with like, oh, he hit it and he didn't go for the bridge. That's the one big thing. He hit it with the bridge, and Kiyomiya kicked out. And it's like, God damn it, Noah. They've done this for years where they just have someone's finisher. Like, maybe they'll build it like one finisher up on a tour, but it's never for really long, and they usually always just have them kicked out of in a big match. And it's just so wasteful. Like, I don't want to come off as like, you know, an ungrateful New Japan fan, like an ungrateful, New Japan fan, not an ungrateful New Japan fan. But, you know, New Japan, they do such a good job of protecting their finishes. And then in Noah, it's like, okay, Sugiura, your Olympic Slam is going to be kicked out of in every match. Shiozaki, your Go Flash is going to be kicked out of every match. And like, they even do this sometimes on like relatively mediocre, like you know, level importance matches. Like, you know, sometimes tag team title matches will have finishes kicked out of. And it's like, okay, I can understand Sugiura kicking out of the tiger suplex. I can understand Kenou kicking out of the tiger suplex, because with Sugiura, he's like the long time, you know, he's the veteran. He's like technically maybe the ace even, because he's been so dominant for so long. You know, maybe he's actually replaced Marufuji as the ace, you know, and he can still go. He's still one of their stars. And with Kenou, it's like, okay, I still think that Noah's trying to position, you know, they're trying to build up Kenou, so I can also understand trying to give him that rub of kicking out of it. But why would you give Masa Kiyomiya the rub of kicking out of that move? Like, at this point, you're just making Kiyomiya look weak. Like, okay, he already looked like bad enough, like being totally dominated for like 75% of this match, and then really only getting like his real like his second like rush of energy like in the final quarter. But now you're also having his finisher kicked out of. It's like, what are we doing here, Noah? Anyways, it at least led to, you know, a cool moment where Kiyomiya, he hits like an Emerald Flosion variant, and then it's one more Tiger Suplex, and that put Masa Kiyomiya away and gave Kiyomiya his second successful defense of the GHC Heavyweight title. So yeah, this was the definite match of the night. I gave this 3.5 stars. I wasn't as high on it as some other people were, but you know, it was still pretty decent. I would definitely recommend you watching this. People will still complain that Kiyomiya is green, and I guess I sort of excuse that by being like, yeah, he is green, and I don't just mean like, haha, he's a Noah boy, so he wears green, so he is green, but like, he is still relatively new. Like, guys, he is only 22, and I think he's doing like a solid job as champion. I'm buying into the story of, you know, him being the young guy, really unassociated with Noah, but really trying to imbue himself with, you know, the Noah and with Misawa's spirit to try carry on, you know, that idea of, you know, the Noah's arc and, you know, bring Noah back to glory. Obviously, I don't think he's going to lead to, you know, Noah selling out the Budokan. I think it would be amazing if he could even lead them to selling out like fucking Sumo Hall. You know, that would be like, I'd be happy with that enough. But yeah, I guess I'm also just wondering, okay, you know, it's a cool idea with him, you know, oh, he's the second coming of Misawa, blah blah blah. But where is the story actually going to go? Like, how are we going to develop him past this? Because you can't just have him continue to be the champion who gets worked over for, you know, 75% of his matches and then has a big comeback at the end. You know, you can't have him constantly looking weak, because then it's like confusing, because it's like, okay, this is your champion, he's somehow winning all of his matches, but he always looks so weak. And okay, yes, I myself have already explained the idea is that he's young and that's why he gets dominated for so long. But at a certain point, it does become sort of like, okay, when's he gonna stop being inexperienced, because he's getting all this experience right before our eyes? Surely at some point he has to start looking dominant. And I guess that leads me on to what happened in the post-match. So basically, Marufuji came out to challenge, and this plays on the idea of how Kiyomiya was actually meant to face Marufuji in the Global League Finals. Sadly, or I guess maybe sort of luckily, that match didn't end up happening and ended up being, I think it was Kiyomiya and Nakajima. And I guess I say that because, you know, you don't want to waste that match, like a singles match between Marufuji and Kiyomiya. And I guess I'm sort of surprised that they're having this match relatively soon. And that makes me think, sort of maybe fear as well, that they're going to get the title off of Kiyomiya and give it to Marufuji. The reason I think that is just because, as I said, it seems a bit quick to be going to this match. You've only just gotten Kiyomiya into his his groundbreaking in terms of record-setting GHC title reign. So why would you immediately waste Marufuji? Like, it was sort of lucky when they didn't have to expend him on that Global League match, because then it would make sense for them to build up to a Kiyomiya versus Marufuji match like way longer down the line. But if Kiyomiya immediately defeats Marufuji, then it's sort of like, okay, probably the biggest barrier that was in Kiyomiya's way to being a successful champion is right out of the way. So then it's like, okay, what story can you, I guess, really tell? Like, you go back to Sugiura, you go back to Kenou, and I guess, even though I'm not, like, I do think Marufuji is awesome. I feel like I always shit talk him, but like, he is awesome on his day. I always give that caveat of him being awesome on his day. But I guess, to me, the bigger match, regardless of what I think, it's always going to be a match with Marufuji. Like, maybe Sugiura, but I do think Marufuji is still way more over with the fans, Although I did see, like, when they have faced off together, Marufuji and Sugiura has gotten some decent cheers. But look, I still think the Marufuji match, that's like the money match in NOAH. And that's not saying much because it's NOAH, but, that's still the money match. So I think maybe NOAH is doing that because they literally just want to get the title off of Kiyomiya. And I don't think it could be because they're not happy with him. Like, maybe they, like some other people, think, this kid, he's just way too green. We've given him this push and he hasn't been delivering like we think. I think that would be like really bad if they just immediately aborted like his push. But it wouldn't be terrible because it's like, okay, yeah, he's losing the title to Marufuji. That's not like terrible. That's the guy who's been their ace, for a while. He's like a guy that they can rely on. And then you can just build him back up, have his story become that he has to fight his way back up and finally defeat Marufuji. So yeah, I guess if it was me, and I was booking NOAH, first of all, typical wrestling fan, especially a typical Western wrestling fan, thinking, oh yeah, give me the book and the pen. I can book a wrestling promotion way better than anyone. Even though I have like no idea about 99% of what goes into booking a promotion and everything, I could totally do a better job. But if we're just talking from like a pure writing standpoint and it's like total fantasy booking, here's what I would have done. I would have had Kiyomiya continue to defend his title against sort of the bigger stars of NOAH. So, Sugiura, Nakajima, Shiozaki, just coincidentally, the guys that I happen to, find as my favorite wrestlers in NOAH, they also happen to be the guys that I think would make, the best challengers. And then maybe on like the smaller shows for NOAH, you could have him defend the title against like Kotoge or maybe even like, Yone. And I thought, Yuji Hino, that'd also be like a good little match. That'd be for like the Korakuen shows where they're just trying to get like maybe like 1,500 fans, just to give a little boost. Maybe you could even bring in some outsiders. Like, you've already got Hino, obviously, but, maybe like another outsider from DDT, that sort of thing. And then you would build up to the Marufuji match. And then it would feel way more, there'd also be way more drama about Marufuji getting the title off of Kiyomiya if the match was happening later. Because right now it's like, okay, either A, Kiyomiya defeats Marufuji and therefore NOAH have wasted like one of their big matches, or it just seems way too obvious that Marufuji is going to beat Kiyomiya here for the title, and so if he doesn't win the title, then it's going to be like sort of like maybe a bit happy, maybe a bit shocking, but it's going to be the sort of shocking where it's like, okay, that doesn't really make sense then, or it's going to be like deflating because it's like, okay, Marufuji wins and that's what we expected. So yeah, I guess that's just my opinion. Also, the other thing to talk about is Kenou and KENTA. So Kenou, obviously he's been kept away from, like I mentioned it at the start, he was in the opening tag match here, which I think is a bit of an insult. It's sort of similar to having, I guess it's even more of an insult than having Minoru Suzuki on the opening match in New Japan, because at least Suzuki is like 50 years old. At least he's like on the downward slope. Kenou's like at basically the prime of his career, and that's where he's been relegated to. I'm not thinking he's being like totally pushed over, but I'm thinking, where is he going to be? Because I think that the story they've told with Kiyomiya and Kenou is that they're sort of going to be generational rivals because, Kiyomiya, he made his return challenging Kenou. He lost his challenge against him. Then a year later, he beats him. So it's like, okay, they like surely NOAH is trying to build up like a rivalry here. So I do think that Kenou is eventually going to come back and, face off against Kiyomiya for the title. They'll probably have like many matches. I don't know if you would do Kenou beating Kiyomiya for the title. Like, I think that would be cool because then it would be like the story was initially that Kenou was going to be this outsider to Noah who's going to, take the promotion back to its prime. But then Kiyomiya came in and he's like, no, we're going to keep Noah with the exact same style, and I myself am going to take Noah back to its prime. And, he didn't really say that, but, that's like the general idea. So it's like both guys who have their own ideology for Noah, and they both want to lead it. So that's like a really cool idea. So yeah, I'd like to see them focus on that. I think it would be cool if they had Kenou defeat Kiyomiya to regain the title, because then it's like, that would have been Kenou's redemption, because he'd already defeated this, young little punk who dared challenge him after he finally won his title. And then he ended up losing to him. And, he was a bit ashamed by that. And that was after he'd also already, had all those losses to Sugiura for the title in, in 2018 as well. So it's like, okay, Kenou finally works his way back up, defeats Kiyomiya, and that really, solidifies, okay, these two dudes, Kiyomiya and Kenou, they're going to have a rivalry for this title. So, yeah, that's what I would like to see. Also, I mentioned this earlier as well, the potential return of Kenta to Noah. And look, people who I guess think they know a bit better than everyone else, they like to say, okay, yeah, guys, Kenta is a Noah guy. If he's going back to Japan, it's definitely going to be Noah. And look, okay, I know it is a big thing in Japan, loyalty to a company. If for the majority of wrestlers in Japan, if a company, trained you and put you up for 10 years, you're going to be loyal to them, because that's a big thing in Japanese culture. You're going to go back to them if you are going to that general area for work. But look, it is a different era. Hey, can we fucking remember for a second that Kenta, he already fucking left Noah. He left them when they definitely needed him. After he left, they pretty much had nothing. That was what really started their downward slope. So look, people going on about Kenta's loyalty to Noah, hey, where was that loyalty when he fucking left, 5 or 6 years ago? And this isn't me even putting him down. This is me saying to people, hey, everyone who thinks, oh, Kenta's definitely going back to Noah, and if he goes to Japan, it's definitely going to be Noah. Look, you have to realize, not everyone is exactly the same as every other wrestler. Kenta obviously had some aspirations outside of just wrestling for Noah. What would really be the point of him going back to Noah? Because he was already GHC Heavyweight Champion at least once, maybe 2 times, I don't think 3. So he's already done that. Maybe he does have a sort of sense where he's like, okay, I really want to go back to this promotion and help them recover. But look, I would not be surprised if we generally just saw him go back to New Japan. And I know, typical New Japan fan, thinks every Japanese wrestler wants to go to New Japan. But look, I genuinely do think that he might be, tempted by the money, sort of like Shingo and Ishimori and even Sonata. They all left their companies, Wrestle One, Dragon Gate, and Noah. They left their companies because they're like, okay, New Japan is the big leagues, we want to make an impact as a wrestler, and this is the stage where we can do it. So, look, I think it would be awesome if Kenta went back to Noah. There are so many rivalries that he could rekindle, and as I've said, his stiff style would work so well in Noah because they've already got Sugiura, Kenou, Nakajima, Shiozaki, probably a few other guys. He would work so well against them. All of those random tag matches on the Korakuen shows for Noah, they would instantly go up by maybe a full star, just because Kenta, he is definitely one of my favorite stiff wrestlers. It's maybe him, Shiozaki, Shibata, Ishii, Ibushi, they're some of my favorites. Kenta, I think he in his prime, he might have been the best. That dude just had some fucking disgusting, chops, slaps, kicks, forearms, elbows. I just love that dude. But equally, I would love to see him in New Japan because it will be so fresh, We have seen Kenta versus, Shiozaki and Sugiura before. We haven't seen him against, Okada, Tanahashi, all that. And look, there would be the fear that maybe New Japan would sort of be like, okay, Kenta, you're coming in, you're going to be a junior, you're going to be in the junior tag division for a year, teaming with, whoever, just like they've done to Shingo, where he was a heavyweight star and they sort of relegated him. But look, I think that with Shingo, it's just a temporary thing. A lot of people say this, so it feels like I'm just mimicking it, but I really do think they are going to build him up to being heavyweight. So look, if Kenta went to New Japan, I think they'd do the same thing. But look, Kenta is, I think he, surely he was a bigger star. Yeah, I think I'm safe saying he was a bigger star in his prime than Shingo was in Japan. So I think they would realize what they've got with him and they would put him back into heavyweight, especially because Kenta was heavyweight by the time he left Noah. So, yeah, that's just my little speculation on what's going to happen with Noah's division going forward, relating to Marufuji, Kenou, Kiyomiya, even have I already said Kenou, and also Kenta. A lot of names with K's and M's in M's, mostly just K's in Noah. Also Kobashi, who else? Kotaro, yeah, a lot of K's in Noah. Anyway, guys, it's time to wrap up the show. I'm going to go to bed and watch some Dragon Ball Z, maybe also watch, I believe it was the main event of the Elimination Chamber from WWE. Apparently, the main event, which was the Elimination Chamber for the WWE title, apparently that was like a great match. I'm always really, really skeptical of WWE's like matches, even the NXT stuff. I don't usually really enjoy it that much. The style just doesn't appeal to me. But whenever there's a match that's held as being great, I always check it out. I always like to give it a go. So I'll also probably check that out. Look, for the show itself, it was another alright show. It feels like NOAH never really breaks that 6 out of 10 section. They'll like have some of their mid-card matches were decent. Some of them were, if not bad, just like underwhelming. That was mostly due to clipping. I would really like to see, I guess we really just have to rely on, like, even when NOAH has their big shows, like their Great Voyage shows, even then those are usually like a bit disappointing. So I was going to say it's just because the shows have to be edited to 2 hours for Samurai TV, but even then, when it's not the case, they're still sort of disappointing. But the important thing is that NOAH's main event division, that scene, it's always really solid. This was yet another good match from Kiyomiya. I don't think he's had a match below, at least not below 3.25 stars, and that's usually like the line for me, where it's like, okay, if you're consistently having matches below like 3 stars or 3.25 stars, that's where I sort of lose interest in you. But as I've said a million times in the show, I'm still digging the story with Kiyomiya. I think he's a solid worker. I don't think he gets enough credit for the few things that he does really well. People like to focus on the things that he's going to develop as he matures as a wrestler. I think that's a bit unfair, but if you can't connect with him, you can't connect with him. I can. So I'm genuinely excited to see where NOAH goes. Now that I'm thinking about it, now at the end of the show, I really do hope that KENTA goes back to NOAH. Even though it would be awesome to see him go to New Japan, just as a majority New Japan fan, it would be awesome to see NOAH also revitalize, because KENTA would be a massive draw. That's just my closing little opinion there. I think I can just go over the Kiyomiya versus Kitamiya match. That got about an 8.05 rating on Cage Match, if I remember correctly. I gave it 3.5 stars, pretty similar. I'd have to say, that was definitely the match of the night, no surprises there. My wrestler of the show, I guess I would have to go with Kiyomiya. Look, if you're one of those people that like is totally down on Kiyomiya, you're probably like so sick of me going on about him. So I'm not going to, say all the shit I've said before, but look, I think the dude is a very good wrestler. Look, he's 22 years old. I think he's eventually going to become great. And look, another little thing, isn't it interesting that for New Japan and NOAH, there are both two, controversial young champions who have gotten like mega pushes within their first year of returning from excursion. Like that's very specifically similar to both their situations, isn't it? Anyways, looking forward to the rest of Pure Grade Pro Res. I do plan on reviewing the DDT Judgment Show. Oh god, I'm just like cringing as I say that, because it's like, do I really want to sit down for 6 hours to watch that show and it's going to be like 80% comedy? I feel like I should do it because I haven't really done any reviews of DDT, and hey, Pure Grade Pro Res is meant to cover all pro res, I'm not meant to discriminate, so I should put in the effort, watch the show, see what I think of it. I'm thinking it's going to be like a 5 out of 10. Like I bet the upper card of the show will be really good, but I feel like the comedy matches are just going to weigh me down. But hey, maybe DDT has changed and like they do like only one comedy match and the rest of the show is serious. I don't think so, but I can hope. I'm not sure what else I'm going to be reviewing. I know that All Japan is still doing their Excite series with the junior tournament. I haven't seen any matches be talked about as being like real standouts, so I'm not sure if I should bother really finding those shows online and watching them and reviewing them. Nothing's like too big. I feel like I still think they're having a big Korakuen show or something with like a defense between Miyahara and Suwama. I know that's coming up at some point in like at least in the next month, so I'm going to be reviewing that at some point. I'm not really sure of any other big pro res shows that are coming on soon, but look, just keep your eyes peeled to the YouTube channel. The show is Pure Grade Pro Res. Check me out on YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes. Blah blah blah. You can follow me on Twitter at Pure Grade Puro. That's Pure Grade Puro. I'm not one of those guys who makes like 1,000 tweets a day. Who's like sees like, oh yeah, I woke up today, I thought about wrestling. Better post this. I'm literally just posting about when I've recorded a new episode, and I actually just post links to the episodes. So if you follow me, I'm not going to be the guy who's like spamming you. If you ever want to contact me, you can just hit me up on Twitter. That's probably the easiest. You can also leave comments on if you find me on Reddit, or just on my YouTube videos, if that's where you find it. You can also email me at puregradeprores@gmail.com. I'm pretty sure that's right. I think that's the email I made when I see everything up. But yeah, look, that's enough of my long closing segment. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, peace out, goodbye forever. I'll catch you guys next time. See you soon.